Fine, the Ilum already got involved in Bosi Legani, yeah? Were you holding? Which sugya? Chaysis Havos, Karni Reimim, Bekinim, Yosef, Yedua, Yedea, where's the... Fine, ich dachte, wir jetzt im Sendibach, wir dürfen reden about the name of Bosi Legani, Chlal, and the Bosi Legani of the year.
I'm personally stuck on all the Zara stuff in Ice Hay. That's where I'm stuck.
Ice Hay, what?
Maybe Ice Love.
What's in Ice Hay and Love?
The top of the...
Shoil? You're stuck in Shoil? In Erderein, huh? That's hay. What's involved? I think the Drosh Gimel Shittas.
It's Ice Hay at the top of the...
Yeah. Page Chav Gimel, yeah? So
Cyrus. Neil, okay. It sounded a little strange.
You're saying until there you're fine. That's where you got a bit stuck. Okay.
What's the hardest?
Okay, so I'll speak a bit about what's going on here in the Maamer, but I get to the Maamer himself, the Maamer itself. So yeah, it's a lot of parts of the Maamer is the gate. It's very geschmack. If someone wants Shiurim on the Maamer itself, you could hear Yosef Greenbaum Shiurim, hear Eilis and Mitzuris about the Shiurim. So I'll give myself the luxury of a shtickle floating around on Reid in Arum and certain Kudis be Madgish. The emphasis I want to speak about a few things, but Baruch Hashem, Mamish, a few hours ago, I was able to see the Hanacha from the Shabbos Maamer, which parts of it are in the Haaretz here in the Maamer, but parts were never printed. Hopefully, we printed for this year, and there's a new. According to that Maamer, there's a new vart, a new nekuda in the sugi of Havas v'chayos that gives not just a deeper havana in that sif itself, but in the mahalach of the Maamer. So I'll spend some time on that. Before that, okay, so Betzim, this Maamer Bosi Legani, it's Tafshu Chav Daled is Be'etzim on Sif Yudaled. Sif Yudaled is a hemshech to Yud Beis and Yud Gimel, right? From Sif Yud Beis, we start speaking about Oirin Tzoif, L'mayla Adin Keitz, U'Lamata Adin Tachlis. As the Rebbe is madgish v'kama Maamorim, that even though the lashon is l'mayla adin kates l'mata adin tachlis, first l'mayla adin kates and then l'mata adin tachlis, in the Maamorim, first we explain be'etzim over 3 sifim Yud Beis Yud Gimel Yud Daled. We explain what's the vart of l'mata adin tachlis, and then sif tesvav we explain l'mayla adin kates. The be'etzim, then afterwards tezayin Yud Zayin we go tifer koydem atzimtzum. As the Rebbe explains in later Maamorim that what goes on in the next Maamer. Because Bosi Legani, each Maamer is 5 prakim. So this is the third Maamer. This is the Maamer that came out for Purim. The first 2 Maamer, Bosi Legani and Yeshivas Begani, came out for Yud Gimel Shvat, came out together. That came out before the Istalkos. The first Maamer that came out after the Istalkos is this Maamer, the third Maamer. Because it's after the Istalkos, there's no Dibra Maskil, because the Friedrich Rebbe wasn't Asher Dibra Maskil. So this Maamer is Yud Aleph Yud Beis Yud Gimel Yud Daled Tezvav. Then weiter, the Rebbe explains that from Tezayin and on, we go to Noch Tifer, Noch Echer Kedem Atzimtzum, what's L'mayla Adin Kates and L'mata Adin Tachlis there, and then Yud Zayin, he sort of finally comes to the Achra, where he's trying to get to. Where is he trying to get to? So Betzim, from Yud Beis, Gimel, Yud Daled, Tezvav, Tezayin, somewhat halfway through Yud Zayin, we're speaking about L'mayla Adin Kates, L'mata Adin Tachlis. So it's great stuff, it's great Haskalah, it's Geschmack Chassidus. We're in the middle of the Gedichte, Tife, Oisius of Bosi Legani. What's it doing there? Right? What's it all about? It's there because in Sif Yud Aleph we start speaking about the Oitzer. The Eivishter gives us an Oitzer. The Eivishter gives an Oitzer to the Anshe Chayil, which starts speaking about in Sif Yud, the Anshe Tzava. In the army there's from the Melech and down, and there's the Sarim, the Pekidei Chayil. In the Maamer this year he speaks about the Dilas Tun and the Chsizim Mulchama. People have figured it all out, especially in the Tzidkesh B'Zaynai. But then there's the Anshe Chayil, the foot soldiers that actually, they're the ones that have to go out there and fight the battle. In order for them to fight the battle and win the battle, we give them an oitzer. So the emphasis here itself, in the Maamorim, this is something that goes back and forth between the different Bosi Legani Maamorim. What precedes what and what brings about what? Is the oitzer given to us Mumayla, and that gives us the koyah for Mesiras Nefesh and go out and win the battle? Or we are ma'oider our Mesiras Nefesh. which sometimes this is called our own oitzer, right? It's one of the Maamer here as well. Our oitzer bifnim. And that brings mida connected mida, the oitzer milmaila. So we start the initial sort of chodesh al machat. We are mo'ir our mesiras nefesh. We receive the oitzer milmaila in order to go out and win the battle. And then there's a third oifin that we go, we fight, we win the battle, and as schar, we receive the oitzer. As schar, we receive the oitzer. So the oitzer comes after the battle and after the victory. Right? Got confused yet? Great. Okay, so the emes is that there are different oifanim, and in the Maamerim, these different oifanim are brought. And in the Maamerim, on the later prakim, if Yudches, Yutes, Chaf, that would mean Tavshin Chaf Ches, Chaf Tes, Lamid, which those are the last Maamerim of the first cycle of the 20 years. So in those Maamerim, which they're all Mugeh, because they were Mugeh the second round, Tavshin Ches, Tes, Nun. So there the Rebbe, in the Mugeh, in the Pnim, and especially in the Aris, the Rebbe starts creating this tivuch, which that itself, in different Maarim, different Leifanim, of how these things work together. And sort of there's different stages in the Oitzer. There's the Oitzer we receive before, there's the Oitzer we receive after, there's different dargis in the Oitzer. I'm not just mentioning this Derech Agav, it's going to be negil to what's going on in our Maamer as well. So, in order to understand what the Oitzer is, Lahavin, the meaning of the Oitzer starts if Yud Beis. What is this Oitzer? What is this great Oitzer that the Eibishter gives us to win the battle, to help us win the battle? So, Makdim, state, now what's he trying to do with that? So here's very interesting. Probably most of us learned the Maamer, Tavshin Chav Gimel, Tavshin Chav Beis, the last few years. So if you remember the Maamer Bosi Legani of Chav Beis and Chav Gimel, so the Rebbe says very clearly there that why are we starting, that first of all, what is the Maamer trying to do? Why are we bringing us this whole Arichas That's number one. And number two, why does the Frierdiker Rebbe switch from the order of, what's the lesson from Tikkun Zeir? The Lamayla indicates Lamat Ani Tachlis. The Frierdiker Rebbe first, over 3 sifim, explains Lamat Ani Tachlis, and then explains Lamayla indicates. And the Nekuda is, because we want to explain to us the haflah of the Oitzer, how amazing the Oitzer is. What's the Oitzer? Lamayla indicates. So to understand the haflah of the Oitzer, Lamayla indicates, first we explain Lamat Ani Tachlis, and that's 3 sifim that really give us a run for our money to really understand. And once we learn the Maamer, Chav Beis, Chav Gimel, Chav Daled, we understand the haflah of Lamata Adin Tachlis. We say all that haflah, the oitzer, which is Lamayla Adin Kates, is greater than. That's the oitzer that we have. This is the way that Rebbe explains it in the beginning of Chav Beis, in the beginning of Chav Gimel, if you remember from last year. But here in Chav Daled, the Rebbe comes already in the beginning of the Maamer and throws a bomb. That's the Chayra Yoitzim in a Klal. And just a moment about the beginning of the Maamer. So the Klal, the beginning of Maamerim, in this case, in the Anacha here, it's Sif Aleph, Abatzan, right? The whole Sif Aleph. So we know this style in the Bosi Legani is that the first few minutes, usually 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on the year, that everyone does a sikkum. Fine, nice sikkum. Some years it's a smaller sikkum, some years it's a longer sikkum, and the Rebbe, for some reason, will in the middle of, this is a Sif Yudalit, and the Rebbe, okay, Sif Aleph always will get a nice amount, because we have to speak about Bosi Legani, and the Yerid L'Shchina Lamata, the 7 Doiris, but then all of a sudden, sometimes the Rebbe will sit for a minute, or even more, on Sif Beis, or a vert from Sif Gimel, or later Sifim, the Tzava, and it's like what's the vert? But very often, when you learn the Maamer, you see that the sikkum in the beginning, it's not just a nice sikkum. It's not a nice sikkum. The Rebbe is madgish certain in Yona. Number one, the hadgashis. Number two, the shinuyim. The Rebbe brings the word differently. He's madgish it. This sif, the way it's brought, it's here, if it's sif beis, the way the Rebbe explained it, Tafshin beis, very clear in one life. And here the Rebbe says it in a few words, over mitam der hadgasha. And very often you see how it feeds into and connects to the toichin later on in our Maamer that's going to get to this year. So there's kind of a common Yonim. I'm not going to get to all the Yonim here. I think once you look with that perspective, there's a few in Yonim you'll see here, especially when you hear the Rebbe saying it, you see the Rebbe being madgish in a certain way. But one of the Yonim that you see over here is that the Rebbe explains what is the Oitzer. Right, so there's what we have in the Pnim, there's what we have in the Aris Ambadim. The Aris Ambadim are from the previous, the Maamer of Friday night and Shabbos day. So the truth is, in the beginning of the Maamer, the Rebbe says it, but I don't know if you could say the Rebbe says it as if the ganze toikif and the ganze klarkeit. But by the end of the Maamer, it's mamish klarazay. The Rebbe says that the oitzer is higher than oir. When we say higher than oir, we mean in all parts of it. In other words, the lamata adin tachlis and lamayla adin kate. So not only the oitzer is higher than lamata adin tachlis, which is what we said the last 2 years, it's higher than lamayla adin kate as well, because that's also a gather in oir. Oir ein soif is lamayla adin kate, so lamayla adin kate is also included in there. So, fine. So you can nisal at the higher darga. What's interesting is you look at the following Maamer in the next few years, which is on the coming sifim, Tavshin Chav Hey, Tavshin Chavav, Tavshin Chav Zayin. The Rebbe goes back to the same narrative, to the same vart of Tavshin Chav Beis, Tavshin Chav Gimel. That what is the oitzer? The oitzer is lamayla dikates, and we start with lamayla tachlis the same. Lamayla tachlis is great, it's amazing. Lamayla dikates is not hecher, and that's the oitzer. Because first of all, what does it say? What does it say in the Maamer? What does the Friedrich Rebbe say? Does he say what the Eitzer is? So you look in Sif Yud Zayin. It's not here in the case because this is just this Maamer, but that's in Sif Yud Zayin of the Maamer. So Be'etzem, when he speaks about L'mayla Din Kates, which is called Etzem Ha'oir. L'mata Din Tachlis is Ispashtus Ha'oir. L'mayla Din Kates is Etzem Ha'oir. And there he says very clearly the etzem ha'oir, and this is the oitzer. He's speaking about the Maamer kids etzem ha'oir, and he says, and that's the oitzer. Elamai. A line later, he says, the oitzer, and the oitzer is atzmus. I don't know Lashon is atzmus ein so. I don't know the exact Lashon. You can look at it. If is it the whole Bosi Legani here? This is the Sefer Maamer. But so the Lashon there is Sif Yud Zayin. Yeah, well, who koi? There's Malkolm and Seif Kalam, but then there's Etzem Ha'oir, which is not begeder Gilui and Amshach in the Oilamis. It's Misalim v'Miskalul Batzmos, which that's the pshat Lamayla Adin Kates, that it's totally Misalim. And he says Ubchinu Madrega Zu Hiani Kras B'Shem Oitzer. This is the Oitzer. Fine, the Chayra case closed right there. That's what the Oitzer is. The Oitzer is Etzem Ha'oir. But he continues. Tikashem Sheha Oitzer Arei Usasum V'Nelo Me'in Kol Roya Kei B'Chinas Ha'atzmos Harei Sasum V'Nelom V'Les Machshava Tfisa Be'Klal V'Hu B'Chinas Ha'atzmos Yisbarech De'ayin Le'Rasi. The next line. He continues and says, okay, we just said that Etzem Ha'oir, that is the Oitzer. And he says, and then he brings, what's the Oitzer? Oitzer, just like the Oitzer down here, a treasure, the Gashmis. No one sees it. Atzmos isn't seen. Yeah, but we're talking about Etzem Ha'oir. So here's where the two Oifanim come about. So we see one line after another, we see that it's Etzem Ha'oir, and then right away, he then moves to Atzmos. So that's why we have in the Maamerim, that's what we have in the Maamerim. In some Maamerim, and this is Betzim, this is the dominating word in the Maamerim of the Chafs. That means the Maamerim that go through these seifim of the Maamer and the Matan and Tachlis. But even Klali, this is the word that the Maamer indicates that's the Oitzer. But then in Chof Daled, the Rebbe jumps to Atzmos. In other words, Etzem Ha'oir is also included within its Oir. And Oitzer has to be higher than Oir. Later, after this Sif Yud Zayin, I mean, some Tavshin Chof Ches, Chof Tes, Lamid, the year that Rebbe already started, and then weiter in the second cycle, the year that Rebbe already started speaking more about this Inyan of the Oitzer being Atzmos. But in the first cycle, and in these Prakim, it's Etzem Ha'oir. Besides for Chav Daled is like a Oisnam Ha'oir. So that itself, it's Omer Darsheni. In other words, why Rostaf gain, but it go out of the lane. Now, the interesting thing is, in the other Maamerim, there's Chof Beis, Chof Gimel, and weiter, like I said, Chof Hei, Chof Vav, Chof Zayin. So, the Rebbe, in a few of the Maamerim, asks this question, or brings up this Nekuda, that why does the Friedrich Rebbe change the order from Lamayla Adin Kates, Lamayla Adin Tachlis, and start with Lamayla Adin Tachlis for 3 Prakim, and then go to Lamayla Adin Kates? And the vert is because Lo Yizu Avzu, right? In other words, we're not speaking about the Oitzer. The Oitzer is Etzem Ha'oir. Lamayla Adin Kates. So first we speak about Ispashtus, or Lamayla Adin Tachlis, how amazing that is, and now we get to the Oitzer. Now, in our Maamer, we're not saying that we're trying to get to etzem or we're trying to get tiffer to atzmos, right? So here, so the Rebbe goes weiter, right? So you have this betzim in the pnim, towards the end of Sif Aleph here, and also in Ois Zayin. Where the Rebbe says, where's the Ois Zayin brought? It's the middle of the page, right? Right, so in the Pnim he says, we start explaining Lamata Adin Tachlis, and from Lamata Adin Tachlis we go to Lamayla Adin Ketz. Right, that's the order. So in the Ara he brings the same Vart from the halfway through the Ara of Ara Zayin, that once you understand that Ilu Lamata Adin Tachlis, we'll understand the Maila of Maila Adin Ketz. Right, but in our mind we're not just trying to get to Maila Adin Ketz, we're trying to get higher. So he goes on and says, so it's mamish, Lamata Adin Tachlis, Lamayla Adin Ketz, Oitzer. What's interesting here is that here the Rebbe adds a vart that I think in all of the Maamerim is not brought. And what's the vart? The first vart that Rebbe says here is the first reason. It's interesting. So a lot of these ha'aris, it comes from, most of them come from Rabbi Yael's ha'aris. Rabbi Yael after Shabbos wrote down, well, for himself, I guess he figured that Motzi Shabbos, the Maamer, even if it's not written down now, it's on tape, so people will have on it. But no one's going to remember Friday night and Shabbos. So he wrote down a bunch of ha'aris. Each ha'aris starts with either with the Aleph or Beis. Aleph if it comes from Friday night Maamer, and Beis if it comes from the Shabbos Maamer. Adding points. And when they rewrote the Maamer, so sort of figure out where each keta goes. So here he wrote on this word. So it was like in the Sigrayim over here, he writes, Hisafe. This word's a Hisafe. And the Hisafe is that why do we start with Lamata Adin Tachlis? Because it's Negeya, it's more Negeya Ta'avodah. Right? There's one Asbari. It's more Negeya Ta'avodah. Pashas, what's the word that's more Negeya Ta'avodah? Pashas, you passed this, you already went through this word. How do you understand? What's that's more Negeya Ta'avodah? There's no wrong answer. Yeah, I'm guessing like you. First word Lamata. But what's the avodah? In other words, what's the avodah of Mata Adin Tachlis and what's the avodah of Lamayla Adin Ketz? No.
The avodah of Mata Adin Tachlis or like means going.
Why is it more to get avodah?
Even in the lowest parts of your life, that you're still there.
Right, but do you know what Lamayla Adin Ketz is? Lamayla Adin Ketz, as we'll learn in the next sifim, the next years, Lamayla Adin Ketz is the tzimtzum. Lamayla Adin Ketz is the choshech down here. If you're talking about choshech, Lamayla Adin Ketz is the source of a lot more choshech here. Right, but to use what you're saying in a Bizander Eisius, Lamata Adin Tachlis is saying how the Ein Sof is down here to find the Shechina in this world, have Gilui Likus in this world. Right, so the emphasis, let's say here in Chav Daled, it speaks about the Gilui Likus as sort of this is the reality. There's a Gilui Likus here. In Mem Daled, we'll get there a bit later. In Mem Daled, the Rebbe speaks about Lamata Adin Tachlis, the Ein Sof being here as an in of avoda. Through our avoda, we can Gilui Likus in this world. So that's the Lamata Adin Tachlis. The Gilui is through our avoda. In Chav Daled, it doesn't really go there. In Mem Daled, he speaks about the Nekuda that our avoda, we have the ability to Gilui Likus down here. What's Lamayla Adin Ketz? Lamayla Adin Ketz speaks about how the Eibishter is so nisalim ba'atzmusei. One of the words of Hey or Chavav. So the Rebbe says that the Lamayla Adin Ketz. What's the Lamayla Adin Ketz? The Kerner is Zogin. When we're speaking about Lamayla Adin Ketz, where's Oyer Sof? Where's the Mokim of Oyer Sof? Okay, the Matzimtzum. So when you say Lamata Adin Tachlis, you're saying that Kilu it's Bikeya that's Tzimtzum, and it comes to us after Lachar Tzimtzum. But when you say Lamayla Adin Ketz, where's it going? It's a gate. It's already Kodim Tzimtzum. So where's it going? It has nowhere to go up. From pre-Tzimtzum, it's going to right. So Dr. Zogin as was the Pshat Lamayla Adin Ketz misalem miskala ba'atzmusei. That's the Pshat. This alms, so that the Eibishter is able to be mile of himself, and when he's mile of himself, what that brings about is the Tzimtzum, the Koyach HaGvul, the Tzimtzum, the lack of Gilui Likus. So, in a way, or this that the Tkuni Zoyar brings L'mayla Adin Ketz before L'mayla Adin Tachlis is not only it's bedafka because first it was L'mayla Adin Ketz. First the Eibishter was mitzamtzim himself. Now we have post Tzimtzum. There's Helim comes L'mayla Adin Tachlis, and we say that even after the Tzimtzum in the Matzah of Helim there's Gilui Likos. How do you say L'mayla Adin Tachlis before L'mayla Adin Ketz? Before the Tzimtzum, how's the L'mayla Adin Tachlis? There's no Matzah, right? In other words, the Shaila, why the Friedrich Rebbe changes the order is not just why he's changing the order from the Zohar. It's l'chayr. That's taka the process. First was the gilui l'mayla adin ketz, was the gilui of the kiyach gvul, and then the bli gvul we said gate durch the tzimtzum, and it's present here even in olam hazeh, and it's able to be nisgala here. But the vart is the first one. So that the first vart is that we said other years as well. The vart is the hafla because l'mayla adin ketz is much tifer than the mat adin tachlis. But another part is Pashas Negei L'Avodah, right? Negei L'Avodah, because L'mayla Adin Ketz is the Helim. The Avodah is Negei L'Likus. To find the Eibishter here. Atzia Sho'el, Hineka. In the Lashon of this Maamer.
In the Sophia Yadal, he says,
In Hisafa? In the Vart Yidal, yeah. Gam Vidas Adam. Yeah, very good. It's, you have the Avodah. Yeah, very good. Yes, Matzah, give me Mesech Shemaim Shalomot. Yeah, Matzah, the Shiur Sho'el Hineka. Let's see, here he takes a lot of the Ketz. He takes it in a bit of a different place in the way B'chlal Mavur in these Maamer L'mayla Adin Ketz. Yeah, so L'mayla Adin Tachlis, you have the Avodah of Tzia Sho'el Hineka.
What's the difference?
Of what?
Maamer Ketz and Asik Shemaim.
Oh, you're saying L'chayra Eibazeh. You're saying, so you're asking, if here we see that L'mayla Adin Ketz also exists in even of Avodah. So both are Negei Avodah. So that's you're asking. Or you're saying. Once you point out, the L'chayra effects of the Shiur. The Fi is Yudalid. So there's also an Avodah of L'mayla Adin Ketz. Okay, so right, you can come and say that what's more Negei to Avodah? Where's there more people hanging out? Where's the more Negei?
What is the Avodah?
Mesech Shemaim is the unit of a pula. Esek Shemaim. No, that's legit.
So what does it mean as Shemaim Shemaim Avodah? Okay, fine. We'll get to that later. So signing the Rebbe's Farbringens always. Yeah, that's the other Indian is Negei Tzayitz V'Sheichem Shivteichem and Tzayitz V'Chet V'Tzayitz V'Mecha. And what's the Chiddush? Because the guy all the way on top can say from Sheichem Shivteichem. The guy all the way on bottom says Hab ich kein Sheiches zu dem. Sagt man ihm that say if you're in Shemayim, say if you're in Oret, say if you're in Shemayim, Shemei Shemayim, say if you're in Esek Shemayim Shamata, and say if you're Shiur Sho'el Hineka, the Eibishter is there, and you have to have Sheiches, and you have to do your Avodah, Kol Echad Lefi and Yona. Now, so someone told me a word that he heard that why does it ever bring this dafka in this Maamer, this word, and not the other Maamerim? I wanted to say like this. He said because mainly the other Maamerim where we're trying to get to is Etzema Oyer to L'mayla Adin Ketz. So it makes sense. We start from L'mayla Adin Tachlis to get to L'mayla Adin Ketz. But if L'mayla Adin Ketz is Saivi Sayinish the destination, so wants to tell you that so this cheshbon isn't so stark because anyways you have to end up going. So let's skip one of them. Do that flow of just L'mayla Adin Ketz, just L'mayla Adin Tachlis, or the package of them together. The flow of Oyer and Oyer then to L'mayla Mir. Well, mainly she brings this word that's Negei Avodah. Fine, that's one nekudah. I think because if she's noch a word, this would be Negei to what we're saying weiter. Okay, another nekudah in Sif in the beginning of the Maamer weiter when he's doing Chazara from the previous Sif, and this is Mamash when we get all the way till the end where we're speaking about Sif Yud Gimel. So some of you remember last year's Maamer Chav Gimel and Sif Yud Gimel. Where were you in some 70? Or you were in Shlichus? Some Shlichus now. You have to all the Bachrim to learn. The work counselors, You're already clocking for a few years. You're still stuck in Tafshach Beis. In Oymei Namor. So, Be'etzim last year in the Maamer Tafshach Gimel, which was based on Sif Yud Gimel, versteht sich, was very. It was how do you say? It was a schwere Maamer, but it was pretty much about the Mata Adin Tachlis. It was about the Yerida. It wasn't really about how Eirein Tzoyt gefindt sich la Mata Adin Tachlis. It was about the Mata Adin Tachlis. Actually, in this Maamer, this is the way the way the Rebbe is saying it, that the nekuda is that what we're trying to say is the inyan for lamata mata. Comes if you dalid, perik you dalid, and here we say, yeah, it says over here. Was ist da der lamata mata? Die gerät für ihr barichas die dargish bezeh darga tachtoina bis noch in die Riker bis lamata mata. Sagt auf the roof. Now in perik you dalid, mata mechayes kulam. Meaning, what we're bringing previously is, let me show you how low this thing can go. It goes really, really low. And then we'll start, the house Sifidal starts, right? Nevertheless, the atom mechayes kul. In this mata adi tachlis, the Eibishter is there. So, in the Maamer, last year, he went through this mamash baritz, went darga, under darga, the Lord, the next darga, and then mamash at the end, he gave us a te'ima of Tavshin Chavdal. Right? And the Rebbe said, at the end, those mamash in one line, the Rebbe said, nevertheless, dort kufe gefindt sich in safe, und der Fahr, in was bringt sich es ist, in other words, how does it express itself? Lo yidach imenu nidach. That was like the whole word. Lo yidach imenu nidach. In other words, the hasbara seinian and what's going to happen, and like now we have these oisis, message neka. Next year you'll get that. But I'm not going to let you off just saying mata and and life sucks. It's the Eretz gefindt sich da, and that expresses itself in the fact of lo yidach imenu nidach. How? Comes Tav Shulchan Dal. So the Rebbe sort of gives a te'im on the end of Chav Gimel of Sif Yudal the next year. Here, obviously the Rebbe starts with the Sikma before, but here the Rebbe speaks about Sif Yud Gimel, and the Rebbe learns Sif Yud Gimel different and a Sach Nidriker, as we went last year. If you remember, the Sif after Sif, he went lower and lower and lower. But the Rebbe learned Sif Yud Gimel. It's not clear in Sif Yud Gimel of the Friedrich Rebbe. If you look in the Sif, it's printed in the Kovitz. And Nachmer, in Tav Shulchan Gimel, the Rebbe didn't learn that way. The Rebbe goes to the Klippus, right? There goes through the Oilamus, Klippus, and lower than the Klippus. Perich of Dalatanya, that someone that's choyte v'oiver yitzay yisbarich is worse than Sidra Achra and Klippa, as the Maamer Yitush Kadmach, right? Because all the behemoths, the chayes, and all those that come from Klippus and represent Klippus, they don't go against the Ratzin Eibishter. And there's levels in Klippa. There's Klippa that guards the pri, just like the pashtus pshat of Klippa. And then there's Klippa that is mesis or mefate to go against the Tzayni Yisbarach, because it's the Zoyna that's brought in Tanya. It's not called the Zoyna is doing the Ratzin HaMelech. The Melech is trying to tempt the prince in order to megala his maila and to make a dir b'tachtoinim v'cholu. So the Klippa is doing the Ratzin Hashem. A person goes and actually is oivar and Tzayni Yisbarach is going hey b'chol Ratzin Devish. And then it goes nachtifer that he's choyte pisheya. There's regular choyte pisheya. There's yon rishus. There's doing an aveda of lumazeh, and then there is that you use kedusha to go against Ratzin Elyon. And this is like the Mashal Tanya that you hold the Chman the Reishi Shal Melech the Chol. That's how low you could go. So the Rebbe goes to this low darg, and then interesting, the Rebbe says, and the Rebbe learns, that's Shtei Tach in Sif Yud Gimel. What does it say in Sif Yud Gimel? It's for the end of Sif Aleph. In the end of Sif Yud Gimel it says, it brings this vard, and this that Rebbe spoke about Barichis and Chav Gimel, that how low the Chayas Alikis comes, and the Eir Aliki comes, and you have a matziv, where people can learn Torah, and you learn Torah, hey becha Torah, because the person learns with the Sefer Lenushi, how the Erfar state, he's not bottled to Torah. So, the Friedrich Rebbe is not speaking clear about someone that's using Kedusha to go against the Eibish there. And to go Hebech Ratz in the Elyon. But the Rebbe says, when you think about those terms, what's going on here, this is, the Rebbe learns from this Nekudah, this Inyan. Because once we say that a person can use the Koyach HaTorah, a person can use Torah and Paskin Hebech HaTorah, so Betzim, you have the whole Vart here. You have the Vart of going Hebech Ritzoyni Yisbarach. And even using Torah to go Hebech Ritzoyni Yisbarach. Fine. Now, right there, it's very interesting, because the Chayra here, we're already going to Sif Yud Dalid. And Dafkin Sif Yud Dalid, the Rebbe was like, one second, let's hold on to Sif Yud Gimel, and let's Shlep Esar up. Right? Let's bring it even Nachmer Nidrik. So just the 2 points that we spoke about in the last the Chidushim here, the Oitzer, we go Asach Hecher, right? The oitzer we go asach hecher, and the mata we go asach nidrike. Right? And it makes sense that these two things are connected, right? And taka you see this in Sif Vav, as in the Sif Vav on bottom, the Ois Vav. One second. Was in Ois Vav? In Ois Vav. So these two, there's a few artists here, especially Hey and Vav. This is actually not from Rabbi Yale's. Rabbi Yale didn't write this down. This is based off the Hanachas from the Shabbos Fabring, from the Shabbos Maamer. So you see over here a few lines into the Ois Vav. The line starts Shalosh Shazo Inina Oyer, right? That just like the Eibishter gives his Oitzer, that's higher than any level of Oyer. The same thing in Our Avodah, even a Tzaddik has to go higher than the deepest Koiches of his Metzias, which is all in the Gather of Oyer. Then it says, because without that, in other words, the way that I'm saying it here is the oitzer and the highest level of oitzer, the oitzer in our koiches nefesh, which is the serious nefesh, and the oitzer lamaila, it's not just an added benefit and an added gift. I'm like, hey, you're going to war here, nadir oitzers. It's for survival. There's no way you're going to be able to get through this war without the bizbuz oitzers. Right? In other words, because the mata adin tachlis has a nidrik, and it's a matziv, that Torah itself could go against itself, could be used against itself. After because the yirid is so low, we need the highest level of oitzer. Then comes the Sif, Mamshech Perek Yudalid. So here's interesting, the Ois test, right? It brings that Yudalid is shaykh to the Ilif, Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. And then a whole beer here, how is Yudalid, Kaima Sira Bashlamusa? The Kaima Sira Bashlamusa is Tesvav. Yudalid, the whole word here that really it's Ib Tash Tzag, Kiddush HaChedesh, always our best halachas. And it's the night between 14 and 15, so 14 and 15 are both Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. It's something very interesting. If you remember from last year, when the Rebbe introduces, right after like the first Sif, when the Rebbe introduces the Sif and der Yar, Sif Yud Gimel, how does the Rebbe call the Sif? Yud Gimel B'Gatya Echad. Gatya Echad. Right, and here, in Yudalid, what's Yudalid? Yudalid is Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. And there the Chayra, you saw the Vart, and the Kud of you saw the Maamer, the Kud of the Achtus of the Eibishter, it's in Skala, in Mata Adin Tach. But in this Maamer, it's not just that the Eibishter is present here in this world. You see a Vart here of Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. What's Kaima Sira Bashlamusa? Gilu. Especially if you remember the Sichis in Nun Beis, the Kislev Nun Beis, so you have told this and Vayishlach Nun Beis. Right, if you know the Sichis is not what I'm talking about, but then the Kudah is, and told us every speaks out the middle of Rosh Chodesh, the first day, you have the Etzem Achidush, the Etzem Olavana, and then Yudal Tesvav, you have the Shlemus, the Gili of the Olavana. Yudal Tesvav is Shlemus. The Gili. And das sucht man da, because the whole V'arter, the next few Sifim in the Maamer is that not only we have Eretz Seif in this world, Eretz Seif is da Begilu. Now, how do we see this Gili of Eretz Seif?
I was referring to that Shlemus.
The word of Shlemus is Kaim Sir Bashlemus, the word of Gili. Look, this thing is Mamish here, but Kitzer from the Maamer of Friday night or Shabbos. I'm not sure exactly what was said, but the way that Rebbe brings in all the places, you see very clear and told us in the Yishlach Nun Beis. Here the Rebbe is speaking about the difference of Rish Chodesh Kislev and Yudalad Kislev. Yeah, so understand what's at stake, right? So Rish Chodesh is the etz. There's a merdika mile in Rish Chodesh because the etzem chiddush of the Levana. You know, you don't see anything. You don't see anything in the Rish Chodesh. But after that is greater than anything else. Because the etzem mitzias of Levana. After Erev Rish Chodesh, there's no Levana. Whatever that means, no Levana, right? And then there's Yudal Tesvav, which is Shleimus and Gilui. And that goes along with what we're going to say here, because that's the word of Yudalid. The word of Yudalid is Gilui. Now, who is their Gilui? So the Gilui, there's Betzin that brings from Rabbi Sina Sienu, different in Yonim and Gilui, and it's this Betzin goes on in the Oasis of the Maamer. It's Betzin from Sif Beis Gimel through Sif Hey, right? Sif Hey, he speaks more from Sivav and on. He speaks about the inyan of that the oyer is not nispol and nishtane and supply b'pshitusay. But these Sifim he speaks about the inyan of Gilui. And Gilui go for a few different things. The oifen that he brings over here in Sif Gimel, Red Vegin is Havos and Chayas. Okay, forgive me if I go a minute or two over. I just wanted to say the vart. So, yep, you guys looked at Sif Gimel, yeah? You heard that I was speaking about the Havos and Chayas. So, Chaldim, very interesting. Havos and Chayas, if you've seen the Maamer and Koimis, on the back of the Koivis, so it's something that's better. The Rebbe kochs in it. It's in the Rebbe's Amorim and Sichis. You have this inyan, and it starts in Teves Shalom. If you try to understand what's going on in Teves Shalom, you'll get a bit stuck. The issues there are a bit hard. But there's Mechal Sugah of Havos and Chayas, but there's a big chiddush here in this Maamer. And then, as I said before, there's the Nekuda that the Rebbe says. This is brought in the Hanacha. I think the Hanacha is from Leibel Shapiro. The way the Rebbe said on Shabbos that it adds another nekuda and it makes the flow here very, very geschmack. So this Havos and Chayas, where does it come from? Who's the Mahava? Who's the Mechayah? It could be they could both be the same, or it could be two different Nekudas. Who is Mahava and who's Mechayah? As the Rebbe say in the mind. Is it Atzmos? Is it Eir? Is it Eisius? Is it one darg? Is it two different dargas? Huh? Who's the Ato? Yes, that's the Shaila. Who's the Ato?
It's not the Atzmos first.
Right. So first of all, I want to be magish that point because the way the Hanacha is written, it's a bit misleading. Even though the Hanacha corrects itself a few lines later, because he says that it's
doesn't mean the
Chas Shalom, but the way it's rolled at Chila is misleading because you see the and you hear the way the Rebbe says it. The Rebbe doesn't say the way it's worded here in Kavanah La'atzmos Mamish. The way the Rebbe says it is das meit men nit nor Atzmos is das Mechaya. But Atzmos is doch right, but rather it's the way Atzmos is ich meilim und master and oir elyon. The Rebbe never says that it's not Atzmos, that we don't mean Atzmos. The Rebbe says it is nit nor Atzmos. In other words, it's not only Atzmos without anyone else, quote unquote, involved. It's not just Atzmos direct. Atzmos wants Elam Hazeh, creates this world and gives chayas to this world. End of story. No, Atzmos is obviously the one behind it. There is no one. It's clear. No one other than Atzmos can create this world. That is the Simen Chafi Geras HaKodesh. That only the Eibush there, that Ein Lo Yila V'Siba, the way it's brought in many of the Maamer and Sichis, Atzmos that is Mitziusim Atzmos. So it can create a world that's Yesh Me'yayin without a Yila V'Siba. A world that senses, that feels itself as a yes, as Mitziusim Atzmos. So only Atzmos is the one doing it. But Atzmos does it through the Oir. There's a Chmailim in the Oir Elyon, the Oisius, through there. Now, we're speaking here about Hishabos or Chais. So here is interesting. Here, there's a chiddush in this context that goes both ways. One chiddush when you get to Hishabos, one chiddush that goes when you get to Hishabos, one when you get to Chayas, and one l'chayr is more you hear in the Motzi Shabbos Maamer. This is the Maamer you hear on tape, and one is in the Shabbos Maamer. In B'derech Klal, you learn a shtikol sugi Hishabos and Chayos. Right, Hishabos is the etzem. The etzem Hishabos of the nivra. That's not what the nivra exists. That's some gashmis and nivra. Right, we all know that in order for gashmis to exist, it can't come from any darga, because no darga ruchnis, nothing in the shtalshlos has within it to create gashmis. So Hishabos Hagashmi is obviously yesh me'ayin from atzmos. What about the chayas? The chayas in the nivroim, yeah, shayuch be'emunah. Right, reading shayuch be'emunah, perak aleph, perak beis. Shayuch be'emunah. We're speaking here about the koyach, eliki, the dvar havai. What's the oisius? The oisius are in the nivra. What's the oisius? The oisius is not atzmos. The oisius is it's not even safe. It's the oir after the tzimtzum. It's the oir natzilis. It's malchus that tzilis dvar havaya. Right, it's malchus. The way it's yered in biyah. it's the oyer. It's the oyer mugbal. So here we come and say, Take the oisius are nislabish and the bria are mechaya the bria. But it's va'at mechayas kulam, it's atzmus through them. There isn't any, no other koyach, no oyer has any ability on its own to do anything. It's all, in other words, it doesn't koyach on its own. What are they? They are expressions. It's the Eibishter, the way he is, bekeya, the tzimtzum, and the oyer, it's a slabish and a kli, gives chayas to the bria. It's atzmus. That's what the Lashon uses. That's miling himself through this. That's when you get the chayes. But what about his havos? Where does his havos come from? So, Beifin Klali, and this is the Pashas Avon, the way you could see it in many Maamerim, his havos, right? His havos comes from Atzmos. Hu levadei hu, right? Oyer Ein Sof cannot create a Lamazah. Definitely, Oyer Agvul, Oyer Acharat Tzimtzum can't create. Yes, may I? Only Atzmos. But here we come and say the Ata Mechayes Kulom. What's the Ata? The Ata goes on the Oisius, which means it goes on the Oyer, because there's no Oisius in Atzmos. So Oisius is already the Oyer, and the Oyer itself, the way it goes through different halamis and stages. And the Ata Mechayes Kulom. What does the Frierdiker Rebbe say? Vat mechayes kulam the oyer es oyer liki halei the beginning of Sif Yudalid nimshach lehava yisul lahachis as kol nivroim layin liyesh lahavis as well, even though it's vat mechayes kulam, but we say al tikr mechaye elo mehave, that this havos as well goes through the oyer. The oyer is part of his havos process as well. So the chayus also has within it atzmos, ultimately is atzmos. And this havos is not only atzmos, it's atzmos using oyer. Ultimately, the oyer is what creates as well, is what brings about this havos. So in this havos hanivroim, we have the oyer in soif as well, not only atzmos. Right? So this havos also has oyer, and the chayis also has etzem. What this does is this is what brings about the big chiddush of the Maamer, that b'derech ha'retzich, that where is there gilui? There's gilui in chayis, but in his havos there's no gilui. In his havos we don't sense. A person doesn't sense that he has a source. That's the whole part. It's just matzmusi. That's the way ego works. I exist. That's it. There's nothing before. Chayos, I feel I'm alive, and I sense there's something outside. There's something benoised me than just bones and gashmias. There's some life. There's life here. So first of all, when you get to life, so what's the gilui that exists when you get to chayas? The fact that I sense that I'm alive. I don't know that the chayas is a liki, but I know that I'm alive. Once you know that I'm alive, so you can already go right. But here in the Maamer we say that more. The gilui is not only that you know that you're alive, you sense your chayas, you know that you're a living organism, you're able to actually come to some sort of akara. This chayas is hecher from there. There's a mucker, it comes from somewhere. There's a mucker, so there's something liki about it. But then he says, weiter, that not only we have gilui by chayis, through chayis we're able to have gilui by his havos as well. Meaning through chayis we're able to come to hakara that we have a boire, we have a mahava. Eina yesh or says you're able to recognize that we do come from somewhere. Right? So b'chlal, like, why do you have to go through the chayis to come to this hakara of his havos? I could just come to this hakara to this. I just think that I have to have a makar, I have to go through the chayis, right? Which is something v'yachkamoid, a tachnaning them. But the word here is that this is negate to this word that also his havos goes through oyer. Because if his havos only came from atzmos, the whole word of atzmos is hella. Why is atzmos the only one that could create gashmias? Because only atzmos that's mitzviyusim atzmosli and ila v'siba can create something that does not feel its makar. Mitzad atzmos, we shouldn't have any gilui when we get to his havos, and that's taka why. Basically, we see his havos. There is no gilui. I don't sense a source. Chayis, yeah, because chayis is affiliated with oyer. Chayis comes from oyer. Oyer is gilui. But atzmos is not the gilui. Atzmos is tachlis ha'helam. But we come and say that even this havos is in oyer ein soif lamata adei tachlis. The oyer ein soif lamata adei tachlis. So the oyer is connected to his havos as well. If the oyer ein soif lamata adei tachlis, then it has to come to gilui, because oyer is yoni gilui. So therefore, it's not enough that the oyer ein soif is mahavos, and his havos bligvul, like I spoke about in Sif Yud Beis, and the shtikul yidil bigger Sif Yud Beis. That's mahava oilam is bligvul. but just creates. But we don't sense it. We don't appreciate. We don't feel it. If it's oir and it's gilui, not just atmos, it's gilui. If it's gilui, we have to have it as well. Because they come together, this havos and the chayos, right? Each one, start from atmos and also go through oir. So that connection is that plays itself out that through the gilui of chayos, I'm able to come to gilui in his havos as well. Why lepoil? I need the gilui of chayos to come to the gilui of his havos, so that we can read. But I don't want to keep the oil over here too long. But Pasha's the vart is that there has to be. I'm not running to make that cheshbon, right? People don't just start thinking. Because naturally we search for things that intrigue us, that are questionable. It's not questionable. I'm here. It's not a question. What Chayes does, it creates the question for you. It's the shake. It's like, 1 second. I realize I'm not the beginning, middle, and end. There's Chayes. There's something great. There's Ruchnius in my life. Once a person senses there's Ruchnius in his life, then he starts asking himself the big questions. And that's the verb. Because that's the way that the habos that comes from Atzmos goes through Oyer, that through the sensing and the gilui of the chayes, I start questioning his havos, and I'm able to appreciate, the Eivishter is a mahava eichet. Fine, there's just been a vart beneged to this. Hopefully the scene will come out more barichus, the actual the Maamer, whatever said. Fine. There's a lot of geschmack in Yonim here. And weiter, if there's any bachrim that have what to say on the Maamer, Thursday night, there's always this man sugel. Bosi, Legani, come on Almo Redin, and Moise Zayin, and Mevair Zayin. Tzlach Harab, yeah?